Hi friends, my name is Megan and welcome to episode 137 of a Naughty Mess Knitting Podcast. Hi everyone, happy March 19th. I hope that you had fun if you did anything for St. Patrick's Day, which was 2 days ago, and I will say we have at least two birthdays in our family. So my niece and Mike's cousin are both St. Patrick's Day. It's exciting. And none of us wore green. No, I just didn't remember until somebody said something to me in a meeting at I don't know, 11 a.m. or something. I was like, well, I'm not going to change it now. Not that we all don't have lots of green things, and I'm often wearing green adjacent, but just didn't occur to us. Well, anyway, welcome to mid-March. If you're new here, my name is Megan, and I am a mostly knitter, sometimes crocheter and spinner and other yarn dabbler. And we're here to just talk about all things fibery goodness. I live just north of Seattle with my husband, Mike, our daughter, Theo, our dog, Winter, and my mom, Cindy. And we're here to talk through all the normal podcasty things. So we talk through FOs and whips, new cast-ons, acquisitions, other kind of yarn adjacent things, spinning updates, which I don't have one this week, and then, other things. Okay, I do have acquisitions this week. I have pink acquisitions only. And I have more coming. So much more yarn coming. Oh my gosh, you guys. I was pretty tame at Rose City, and then I'm just we'll talk about the amount of yarn I ordered this week. Not for me, none of it for me, but still. Okay, so let's talk through what I'm wearing first, which is my DRK Everyday sweater by Andrea Mowry. This is my first and only hand spun sweater that I've made. And this was made out of my Podcaster 1.0 collection. So Trisha just did her 2.0 collection in January, and I went on to buy some yarn the second day or something of the sale, and she was past her capacity. And so I'm hoping she'll bring it back, or maybe bring them all back together. And so at some point I will order some of this, but I was just a little bit slow and I didn't realize it would be gone so fast. And so, I'm so happy for her. I think that's great. She had some really amazing, Taji had a really good color. There was a bunch of really good colors. They're all a little bit warm leaning for me. So I was it probably would be something for somebody else, but still would have been fun to spin. I will again order from her for this, but this was my colorway for the Podcaster 1.0 collection. So this is made out of natural Shanico. And I did a 2-ply, and it is a very plump DK. This is a sport weight pattern, but this is definitely a plump DK. This is not a sport weight yarn, but I knew I wanted to make this if I could with the yarn that I had. So I spun 6 braids. I only used 4.5-ish. So I have at least one full cake left over, and then a good amount of another one. So that's good. This is not very, it's pretty lofty. Shanico spins really plump if you let it. And so I did not make the grist is not super dense. I did not spin this really tight or really thickly. It's just kind of airy and poofy. And I did a thing. I think if you guys remember, gosh, I don't even know if I can remember way back, but I think what I did is I took all 6 braids and I laid them out on my ground, fully unbraided. And I will say they were impeccable. She had almost exactly the same amount of color changes in the same order all the way through, all 6 of them, which is incredible. I split all of them in half. And then I don't know if I split them any more than that, maybe in half again. I don't remember. I don't remember how exactly, but I do think I did some from Z to A and from A to Z. Can you tell that's my Telco background? Not A to B. All right. Anyway, I did them from one end to the other, I think. And then I mishmashed, though. It wasn't willy-nilly, I don't think, but I had bobbins 1, 2, and 3, and the bobbins 4, 5, and 6 that I spun later, and I did mostly matching across those two, so that, and it varied, so that whatever I spun, and it only took me 2 weeks to spin all this. I did this very fast, but whatever I spun from the beginning to the end would be like a little bit different. So I matched those so that you don't have like some skinny skeins and then some really plump ones. You know, hopefully you kind of meet in the middle. That's all I remember about the management. So you can go back and watch those episodes if you want to know more things about how I spun this, but I had a great time doing it. And then this pattern by Andrew Mowry was really, it went so fast. It was so nice. And Ariel is making hers now with, Birch from ZZ Textiles, and it's gorgeous. It's so pretty. She's trying to finish something else up. We were talking about it last night, and then she'll go back to finishing the body, but she really wanted a hand spun DRK Everyday. Like Maya, I think, has one, and then I have one. Then this is on Emily's list, so all our friends are going to have the same one. But it lends itself really well to a hand spun make, because if you kind of just do a gauge swatch, which I did do for this one, and you're like, approximate, like you can just adjust so much of this pretty easily. It's a circular yoke. There are short rows shaping, but like, you know, you can kind of change the depth a little bit. What I do think I'm not even going to go back in my Ravelry notes. You can read the Ravelry notes if you want. And I did put some stuff in there, but I'm pretty sure I might be added a tiny bit of depth to the armhole, because this was a warning from friends, and that the arm circumference is quite tight per the pattern. So I have larger arms to begin with, but I only knit like a size 4. So I think I just picked up some extra stitches, plus I added that depth a little bit. So I just picked up a ratio that I thought would get me approximately the arm circumference that I wanted. And it fits fine. It is close to my arm, but it doesn't really have that much negative ease. So it's not like feeling really tight, but it fits close all the way through. It does make it nice and warm. And yeah, but it's like a woolly hug. It is so soft. Shanico is so soft. Like I have a tank top under this, but like through my arms, like nothing. And it's so soft and so nice. Like no prickles whatsoever. It's lovely. The one thing I would change if I did make this again is that this, I am wearing a tank top. You can kind of see it's like dark purple. This neck is a little bit like, I think the way that Andrew Mowry's fits in the pictures is that the whole neckline is a little bit like up more. And I think that if I did it again, I would add more armhole depth so that it has less of this kind of like boat tee look right now, and it's not like, it doesn't feel like it's pushing on the front of my neck, but like, I think if I had given more arm depth, all the short row shaping would sit a little bit like higher, and then the neckline would sit like a little higher, which I don't necessarily need. I kind of like the depth, but I think that it would be more circular at the top. That's all I'm saying. I would make it again, and I do enjoy wearing it. And that's all I have to say about it. Okay, let's talk about my one finished object for the week, which hopefully this doesn't surprise anybody, is Theo's Manhattan hat. This is the traditional, maybe it's like the first pattern that she made. Anyway, this is the Manhattan hat. There's a light and there's a bulky. Light, I think, is sport weight. This is supposed to be worsted, and bulky is bulky yarn. Not super bulky though. I think it's just bulky. But I did use DK, but I used a woolen spun DK. I picked the adult small size, which is the size that Theo would need. And I'm like, you know, roughly on gauge, like it's fine for a hat. I did put it on her. She wore it the other day to the park and it looked great. And then I decided to actually block it because I finished it Friday night maybe. Oh no, no, because I took this with me to Bainbridge. So I finished this Saturday night. So she wore it to the park on Sunday, and then I decided to actually block it for her. So it's just a little bit softer. I will say it wasn't prickly to work with. This is woolen DK from Hello Lavender, and I think it's pretty similar to like other ones. It's like a Patagonia woolen spun yarn. Anyway, it wasn't prickly to work with, but like feeling the final knit, I was like, ooh, this could use a wash. Like I think it needs to bloom a little bit, and those like the woolen fibers will just soften a tiny bit. And so here it is in hat form. Like it's going to be a double fold like this. So you can see the brim is way down here, tucked in. Beautiful. The speckles are quite glorious the whole way through. Like they're really pretty even. The whole thing is gorgeous. Oh, this color is called Holy. This is from her India collection. And I'm just really pleased with how it came out. It's really cute. Yeah, my kid has a big head. I will say I can wear this hat. It does a little bit more stretch over mine. I have a hair clip in, but it's so cute. And on me, because it's double folded, it's got like less of the height. For her, I think like this higher fold will still give her like a little bit the height of the Manhattan hat. If I were to wear it for myself though, and I did do measurements to pattern, I think the double fold would be a little bit smaller like this. Whoop. And that would still give me like a good hat height. But it's so cute. So I'm glad to have this done. This is my third single skein project for the year. If you don't know what I'm talking about, this year, my friends and I, last year we did a year of socks using stash sock skeins, not buying new for the year and then adding them in. This year I am trying to use stash single skeins. So just various ones that are exciting. Some of them are just, a lot of them are hats. Some of them will be like little shawlettes and maybe some mitts and some other things. I don't have a plan for all of them. I don't have all the yarns picked out, but my next one, I did decide I might save. I have one more hat for Theo. I think I want to do maybe in the fall, which is actually, out of this amazing Your Life Could End Up Changing color from Wicked 1.0. It's a great pink. I think I'm going to do something cable-y maybe for her with that. But this is Red from Murky Depths Neptune DK called Twist and Shout will be the next one. And Ariel and I are both casting on something to match with our friend Emily. So we'll talk about that next week. Okay, so that's my one finished object for the week. The only thing, you know, I have done, but I'm enjoying these single skein projects still. I'm glad to be mixing it up. It's not going to be a hat next. And so I'm excited to do something a little bit different. But I did use not all of that yarn. Actually, I have it here. I was like, oh, I'll just use all the yarn. But then I got like almost 13 inches. So I did a little bit more than pattern, knowing that that would maybe stretch a little bit more on her head. And I still have this much yarn left. And so that's like a really good amount to use in something else. I can use with something adjacent, you know, something else DK. I just have to get that number in my stats sheet for yardage. Okay, let's talk about my Stella quilt blanket, which is a pattern by Laura Penrose. This is the forever project this year. Hopefully we'll be done this year. My pace is slowing just a little bit, but I think I did 4 squares this week. I'm pretty sure I was done this. I don't even know what direction I go. I think I was just done this square last week. And so I added the next row, which is the 3rd row is my favorite row, because you can see all the colors come together. So you can see how beautiful it's going to look. And then I've got 2 plain squares here and then 2, you know, the opposite pointy ones down here. And I will finish this week for sure. I would like to at least cast on the next boring white square of my next one. And I don't know what color I'm going to use next. I think I will surprise you. And I think I know what I'm going to use because I have one more that I think is all the minis are already wound. So I don't have to do that, which sounds glorious. But yeah, so this is coming along nicely. I am doing the larger size squares and I am trying to make the large throw, which is 12 squares. They're quite large and I'm excited about it. It's gonna be like a very hefty blanket. I never really show you guys the backside, but you know, all the ends are woven in except for the edges right now, but all the bottom, this way, all the bottom edges are done. But as you can tell, like, I actually think it looks so cute this way. But you can see how this kind of line is from like your pickup, and it's the same for all of them. When you do them separately, you do have to join them eventually, and you do it with a crochet hook. You just crochet chain, but that looks really similar to this. And I think how you grab the sides will also pull them similarly. So it's not going to look really different. And I'm glad because like it would be, you can do this as one full blanket, and the Sweet Shop blanket, you do that. You just join them all as you go. But like carrying it around, working on it when it gets kind of unwieldy, because you have to turn every row. Like I cannot imagine doing it as a full blanket. That's all I'm saying. It's like, I mean, if someone's done it and it was like, oh, that's pretty manageable, and like you can just turn a corner, like let me know. But I like the idea of a Sweet Shop blanket, and the one I'm going to do for Theo eventually, I want to do like the pinwheel pattern. And I'm just like, do I also do that in pieces? Because I might, because this sounds kind of like crazy. But anyway, that's where I am. Green square. This is square number 4, I think. So we're coming along. I will tell you, I'm gonna do a stats episode at the end of the quarter, and I did make a decision the other week when I was talking to some of my knit friends that I believe what I'm gonna do is count each square in the month that the square was finished. Otherwise, when I finish the blanket, let's say I do finish it in December, I'm gonna have like many thousands of yards inflate sort of that number. And while that is when the project finishes, and that's usually all I'm going to count towards, I think partly the reason I want to do it in the month is that that shows me more accurately like how much knitting I did. So like how many yards did I, and like there are some things that go month over month, but like in the quarter, like holistically, that's a pretty good idea of what I like cast on and cast off. And so like how much knitting did I get done? And I feel like that's kind of the number I care about a little bit more. So I'm going to do it that way. So when you see stats numbers, it'll include those. And so each of the squares, I just have to like put them on my Monday board. It'll be square 1, 2, 3, and I'll give them a color assignment so I know what they are. So I just have that idea. Anyway, that's just something for you to know. Okay, the next thing let's talk about is my Birch pullover, which again, this one did not, every week, y'all, I'm like, I'm going to work on this so much. I did pull it out. I did knit on it like 2 nights, and I did make progress, which I cannot tell you. I kind of think I didn't move this one here. Maybe I did. I must have. So I did more sleeve on my, which side am I facing? This is my left sleeve. So I did more sleeve on my left sleeve, like a good 2 inches. And then I did some on my right sleeve, about an inch or 1.5 inches. And so that's where we are. I still have quite a lot of that ball that I'm connected to. I am connected on both sides right now because I kind of think I might be able to do a little bit more on both sides before I run out of it, instead of just having all of the right side done. So I'm going to just get as far as I can this week on sleeves. I would really like, I was going to go back to body maybe, but I had this ball and I was like, you know, I'm just going to do it. And this is what I was working on last night at midnight. And I will say Mike is gone this weekend. He is doing a fun thing for his brother's 40th birthday, and they are celebrating with a bunch of dudes in Las Vegas. And so golfing and the like. So I have Theo by myself, which is, I mean, fine. My mom is here and we can hang for sure. But in the evenings when we typically like chat and, you know, do some stuff together, I can just like do quick chores and then I can just knit. And I will miss him very much. But also I'm like, maybe I will just actually make some headway on this project that I find kind of boring. And you know what? Partly is I never really watch TV. And there's a little bit about this particular knit that makes me want to watch some TV, because I do have to look down kind of more at this. And so I'm like, gotta watch it, but like, it's not stimulating enough for some books. That, or I just read a really complicated book, which I am in the middle of right now. So that maybe is what I'm going to do, and just like get head down and really work on this. But I have some other fun things that I'm also working on that it's like, I feel like I'm gonna get distracted again, but I'm gonna try my hardest to have at least like 1 full night working on it so I can get some sleeve progress done. If I finish that ball of yarn, I would feel amazing. I think that would be like that would be a crazy goal for this week, because I just haven't picked it up that much, but like I could, maybe I will, who knows, wish me luck. Also, that's why, I mean, you don't know what time I'm filming, but it's before 6 o'clock in the morning, because Mike had to go to the airport, and while he could Uber, and there is a train, the train doesn't really run as early as I took him, and we just got up in the middle of the night. I took him, and I was like, you know what? I've had coffee now, and I'm awake, and I'm just going to film so I can hang out with my friends, and that'll be fine. And I'll have a little bit of a slow morning even before Theo wakes up, which is great. Actually, so let's talk about my sample really fast. So this is a sample that is pre-testing. So it's now in testing, but I'm not in the testing group, and I got the pattern before testing, and I will finish it before testing is done so they can take some pictures for release. And what I've told you guys before, so Abbye did a sample already. She did knit this. They typically, not all the time, have 2 though of a lot of their garments, because they make 2 different sizes, and so then they have it modeled on 2 different bodies, which I love. This is a size 6 and it's 52 inches, and this is blocked. Okay, it's not done. Don't get too excited. But it is blocked, and it's on some cables right now, and I need to get back to it, but it just dried like yesterday afternoon. It is gorgeous. This is where I was last week, here in the body. So I added like not a full chart repeat by any means, but it's like a little bit over half the chart. The chart is quite long because, as you can tell, you have this chunk of, I don't know what this is, diamond thing, and then all this traveling cable. And so I will finish all that traveling cable or pretty close to it, and then I'll be done, because I think this is about a little over 9 inches, and I need 12. Yeah, so I guess I might start into, it doesn't matter where this one ends really. You don't have like necessarily like just a totally great place to end. There's always something happening inside this cable pattern. So I'll just end when I end, and they wanted me to get to 12 inches, and I just wanted to see how it blocked. It did block out like lengthwise. I think I gained, you know, pre-blocking to post-blocking about 3/4 of an inch. And that's also hard because I think I measured it more in the cable section or in the lace section, and the lace I knew was going to grow. It just needed to open a lot, and oh God, it looks gorgeous. Look how beautiful that is. So I will go back probably tonight, and I will start knitting this in the round again, and start knitting this again, and I will try to finish the chart. Then I'll kind of look to see where I am lengthwise. I should be pretty close to 12 inches. I might need to do a couple more rows, and then I'm going to start the ribbing. And like I told you before, I need to get this to them. All the ends are also woven in, so that's very fun. I need to get this to them by next Friday, and they said they would FedEx it, but I would like to get it out in the mail by like Tuesday. So I think I'm going to try to finish it this weekend, take a picture or two of me in it, because this size is the size I would pick for myself, if not one size smaller. And then, no, this is not my color, but I will put on some brown lipstick and I will look fine. And then I will, but I'll probably, I don't know if I'm going to soak the whole thing. What I'm kind of thinking I'll do is I'll just like rest it. I have a laundry sink, rest it over the sink, because it has like a big lip, and then just soak the bottom. And yeah, it'll soak up a little bit, but that's fine. Just with the it's a non-superwash fingering base. I don't want to wash it too many times, because that will make it like not even bloom extra, but like a little bit fuzzy, just with like attention and water and agitation and stuff. So you know, rolling in the towel and all the things. So I do want to maybe just not block the rest of it and just block the bottom, and I'll put a couple pins where that is around, so I just know approximately how much has to go in. I could also steam block just the bottom, but I think that they're going to take pictures, and they can block it themselves if they want to, but like I'm going to do a good job doing it for them, so I know that measurements are what we agreed to. This is the sleeve, though, is just this little bloop. Same with this side. And then the neckline is very similar. I think all of them is like 6 or 8 rows. Like it's not a lot of rows. And the neckline you pick up, and it's just more a ratio. So if your row gauge is off, or you adjust the V at all, then it'll just be a little bit different. It doesn't look, this looks a pretty conservative V to me. So I think it's great. That you can tell the yarn's like a tiny bit lighter, but truly you can see a lot of variance in this, and I don't think that will be bad even for pictures. Like it just makes it look a little bit more like a border, and that's fine. The front looks quite even. Post blocking the back, like you can totally see that line, but I tried to transition as much as I could, and I think it'll be fine, because I think it's more important that the front, someone's hair or whatever, can go over the back. And I think this actually looks starker on the camera than it does to your eyeballs. Like your eyeballs can tell it's a little bit lighter, it's a little bit darker, but it's not like, it doesn't look as much like a line. So I'm going to send some pictures to them of this in its state right now, just so that they can see it and get a confirmation of how to ship it to them by Tuesday. And that is 29 Bridges Studios yarn, 29 Bridges Studio, I don't know, whatever, yarn, in the non-superwash fingering, and it is bourbon, the color, and it's a really beautiful color. It's something I never knit with, so it's kind of fun to have. Like it's been quite nice, and it's like really beautiful in that lace, like just easy to see, like not, you know, not too dark, whatever. Okay, let's talk about my Summer Stripes tee then, which is a test knit. So I have a sample and a test knit on the needles, and I am doing okay with this for sure. This is a test for Claire Jackson, and I did split for sleeves, which is what I wanted to do last week. I had not done that yet, and I still had like a couple raglan increases. I actually had more than I thought, so this sleeve depth looks okay to me. It does look like tiny, but this is going to be closer fitted t-shirt. And I did my first stripe. And so I think that's exactly kind of how I was hoping this would look on here. So it's going to be like, they're pretty dark. but they are colors that are within the rest of this pattern, and I think it looks pretty cute. I wasn't sure if I was going to do blue or pink, but I think the pink then blue is was like the right move. It's like the blue is going to anchor it. It does look darker. So anyway, I am really close to my next stripe. I think I'm like actually like the yarn is at the beginning of the round, and I need to pick up the pink now. So continuing on, I did not put a marker on this, but I will do one this week. But you know, I was like up here ish, so I added a good amount. I wasn't even not going to really work on this, but this has been a really meditative, like just stockinette. I had, you know, I knit a little bit of this at knit night, and then like also to show everybody. We like to do show and tell, especially because I hosted last night, and that's fun. I have all the yarn things here, so I can just pull them out and show everybody. It was also like, I need to bring it downstairs anyway because I'm going to be filming tomorrow, so easy. And yeah, and I am using Ruby and Rose's soft sock, which is 8515 superwash merino nylon in the colorway Lover, Addie's version from her Airs collection, Taylor Swift collection, I don't know what she called it. And then the really hot pink is actually, I think, Moondrake. I think it's Moondrake. It was the accompaniment to the La Mercerie 3rd birthday color, which I made a scarf out of, and I used a little bit of the hot pink in it. I actually got this hot pink was extra from Sylvan. And then the blue is my Dabba Dee Dabba Die blue color from Porter Woolco, which will be a t-shirt, but I am just using a little bit of it. It's like, I think the estimate for this is like less than 36 yards to use, and so I will be fine. I have 3 skeins of that for a tee, so that's fine. One I will also be casting on, no, I'm not going to say soonish, in the future, in the near-ish future. The next thing I'd like to talk about is a new cast on. And this one, I have shared the plans previously, and I did talk about it last week a little bit, the yarns. I just like flashed them up. But I have this on my Make 9, and my Birch is on my Make 9, and my clay is the only one that's finished from the Make 9, and we're already in March. So I needed to get something else on the needles from the Make 9, and also I've got all the Make 9, my gift Make 9 too, which I have one thing done that was for Micah's Finest Kind. So I'm not like doing terribly, but like in the first quarter, I was really hoping to have a little bit more done just because I didn't want to leave it all to the end. I will say several of the Make 9 are going to be, my gift Make 9 are going to be tough because they're also sweaters for my nieces and nephews, though they are children. So I'm hoping that like, well, my nephew is like a fully adult size, but like everyone else is a child. So we'll see. Let's continue with what I cast on. Okay, so this is the Iris sweater, which is a pattern by Anne. I don't know her last name, but if I can find it, I'll put it up here. From Trin Anel. And this is, I don't want to say look very famous, but like there are several people who have had like samples made in this, and Holskarn had this color particular that I'm showing right here. That's the like pattern pictures. Like they had kits in this. So there are so many versions of this exact sweater with these exact colors. I knew, obviously, I'm not going to wear those colors. It's like, doesn't call to me. There's nothing about the colors that really interests me. But Coley had a sample made. And hers is gorgeous. And it's similar colors, but like a little bit more vibrant, and like called to me a little bit more. And then I was like, do I have yarns for this? And it was like during my December planning, maybe even when I was doing, like looking, because I was looking for old yarns. That's what's on my Make 9 this year. I read some things that I had before I started the podcast. And I think all of this actually, no, most of this that's involved in this is pre-podcast, but at least like 75%. So I am making a cool toned version. Okay. I flashed the colors up last week, so I will just remind you in this bag because I'm not gonna pull them all out. But I have like my cone and this Bishabouche pink violet. Those two are going to be the flower colors. The white, black, and dark blue are part of like the ground, and then I'm going to just use the green for the stems. So I'm redoing the color chart a little bit. So this is as many colors that are in the charted version, but I made an adjustment on where I want the green to go, and so I'm just changing this a little bit. Okay, and I did rechart this for myself in these colors just so that would like make it easier for my brain, kind of, although I don't know that I'm going to do that for the whole thing. But I made a chart in Stitch Fiddle of like a lot of versions of this, and I just copied them over and over and over to like change the colors. to try different combos of purples and just other things. Anyway, what I will say is I might change the pattern one stitch that's different than here. And this very beginning this is top down. So I'm doing, there's kind of like, I mean, this is still supposed to be like the ground, but I'm doing like the ground. There's no flowers on this part. And then it'll be a stack of flowers right underneath of this. And then I'll do like stems and stuff. So you won't see this for a little bit. But I do think this very first row, which is like just one contrast color and then, you know, however many across to the next one, is going to actually be green in the general pattern. And that's where I'll start the stem. But I didn't do it this time. And that's okay. And so, it's fine. I feel like you're not going to notice that one thing that's going to be slightly different than all the rest of the charts. And I just sort of have to make that decision still. I'm going to like rechart and see. But let me tell you about this. Actually, first, let me tell you the size I chose, because this is maybe gonna, it seems wild, but I'm making a size 2. Now, I say that, but there's only 6 sizes, but it goes from a finished 44 and ½ inch, I think that says, to 78 inches. So it's a big range. It's just that these are big motifs. And so I think they're 6.5 inches for each size or something like that. That's what she said, roughly. Okay. That's a big difference from in the size range. And so it goes from, and I will say, if you're a small person, this is meant to have more ease, like 12 inches of ease. But if you're a small person, let's say, like many people in my knit group, like Ariel, let's use her because she'll talk about her measurements on her podcast. She's like 30-ish inches at full bust. And this is bigger than that. Like this, I mean, you know, this is a size inclusive pattern because it is meant to be oversized for generally. And so like if you were a size 60 or 62 inch bust, the size you would likely pick is like a 78 or the 71.5. And they're still just, both of them are, it's just quite oversized. So all I'm saying is it's quite oversized of a sweater. That's not my game. You know that. I also feel like all the pictures you see, like it's quite a big neckline. And yes, you can just adjust that, but I didn't want to play too much math. I also only have so much yarn because I'm using stash yarn, and that means these lots are like far out of being anywhere close to lots I could buy now. It is just Cascade 220 for the most part, other than the cone yarn and the Biche Bouche, which I have plenty of both of those colors. But I just decided that I will pick a size that I feel like I want to wear most. Okay. And that is always your prerogative. But that for me is the second size, which is 51.25 inches. So that's going to be good. Also, I didn't gauge swatch. Also, I'm hoping that, like, if anything, I'm over gauged just a tiny bit and I can give myself like 52. Anyway, that's going to sit nicely for a drop shoulder for me, and I'm not worried about it. Let's talk a little bit about the cast on for this. This was wild. I also did this kind of late. Like I started casting on a little, like it was pretty late. It was like maybe 10 o'clock, which like I do stay up late. I'm a night owl. But there are certain things you should not do when you're even a little bit tired. And this is one of those. So I'm going to tell you this now. If you ever want to cast this on, do this while you have all of your brain cells working. It's an intricate cast on just because of the nature of getting it to be, this is a steeked project, getting all the steek lines there, getting the things. Also, if you can tell, there are like, I even tied them in knots because there were so many. There are about 1 million ends here at the beginning. Like, I'm not kidding you. There's probably like 12 or 15 ends. Like, it's the most. Let's talk about why. First of all, you do a duplicate knit cast on, meaning you have, in theory, you would do this with 2 different colors, and you kind of make a braided, which you can see here, little cast on that will sit on the shoulder. It's a really beautiful line. It's a gorgeous like little piece of the pattern to like pop and look nice, and give like a defined shoulder. Okay. But to do that is quite annoying. You have to do a backwards long tail cast on, which is awkward to do. You like essentially, instead of twisting over your thumb, you twist over your pointer finger and like do a weird thing. And she has a video of somebody else doing the duplicate or the double knit cast on, and that is great. They explain it, and she has some pictures and stuff too, but you have to do that, and it's quite tedious, and it's a lot of stitches you cast on because you're casting on enough for the front and the back. Then you have to split them. I did read something like recently, Leslie from Knit California either cast this on or something. I think she cast it on because she was talking about how she's never used so many needles to do a cast on. And I was like, surely that's an exaggeration. No, it is not. At one point, you're supposed to have 4 sets of needles working because you have all of your stitches split. Now, this is the part I redid. The cast on was fine. It was just tedious. I at first cast on, I completely knit all of the back short rows, not even, it was too late, realizing that I did it inside out. I just picked like what I thought would be the natural edge. And so this was on this braided edge was on the inside. I go to pick up the front and I was like, oh no, what have I done? I ripped it all out. Luckily, because this yarn is quite sticky, this is not superwash. This is just the fingering non-superwash from Cascade. I ripped it out, and the cast-ons, because they are cut edges then on each, were 2 perfect little worms of cast-ons, and the stitches were still even like to the sides that they were on, and so I just slipped needles back through, and I used sock needles to re-pick them up so they were smaller. This is on, I think 3.5 millimeter needles, yeah. Okay, so that's one time I did it wrong. The second time, I picked up the first side right, I started knitting the second side, and I was like, these the like braided edges are facing the same direction. And I was like, I feel like they should be pointing to each other. I like reread the instructions and I was like, oh yes, I'm wrong again. This was all in that first night. And so then we're like, I don't know, it was probably close to midnight. I was like, I feel like I've made no progress. And so I wanted to stay up and do more, but I was like, gotta go to sleep apparently. This is not the night for me to do this. And I just picked it up the next day and it all went smoothly. It was fine. I only had to and it was just like, I actually had cast on the back stitches and then I just ripped out to there, recounted my back loop cast on stitches and picked up the right direction. Okay, then trials and tribulations here. I went through and I did all of the short rows. So you just do like this, sorry, I just flashed that for a second. You do like a little short row section. You can kind of see that here, how it's growing into like a little triangle. Did that for both sides. You do almost the same for the front and back. And then you add in your steek stitches and you join. Now she does tell you that her recommendation is to knit this on a magic loop for the first couple of inches because, and you can kind of see it here, if I were to knit this here, I'm at like you actually add only 1 steek stitch and then you borrow from either side here. So there's 5 stitches and so you cut down the middle, but at the armhole, this is the armhole, and then this is my front steek stitches, and I am growing just kind of a, you're doing increases still, but you're doing them with the steek in the middle, which is like so weird. Like I feel like I'm like, it's gonna blow my mind once I like cut this and I'm like, what shape is this even? But which I think is part of the reason, it's not the only reason, but like why this is a tiny bit oversized is because you can't really try it on. So you just have to like go with the fact that your measurements will be close-ish. And so like maybe airing on a little bit bigger is an easier thing or, you know, pill for people to swallow in case it's not exactly correct, but whatever. But yeah, I basically can't knit over the steek right now because I don't have enough fabric to pull my needles apart. So I'm going to need a little bit more. And then I can truly just like knit in the round and it won't have any issues, even though like it's just a continuous loop. There's no armholes. So I will cut the armholes out. And then once you get to the bottom, I imagine there's no cast on stitches or anything. And so you just continue knitting, but you don't have the steek line anymore. And instead you move to like, there is a solid line that goes down. That's kind of like a seam line and you do it on both sides. And I think that's also, so on the one side, you don't see like the rays of the color as much, right? Of the next color row. So there's quite a lot of cast on stitches on the back side that helps to create your neckline. And again, I'm creating stitches here to create more of the shape, but it's in pattern. It is going to blow my mind. I know it's going to. But also that kind of means I can't do anything. I guess I could cut and do the collar at some point, like before I block or whatever, which I don't know. I don't know the order of what I'm going to do this in because I've never done something like this. So it'll be a mystery. We'll all be on this journey together. It's not going to be this is also not going to be a quick one, but I do love color work. I love color work so much. I'm like really excited to get this done. The nice thing she does about this, though there's quite a lot of color changes, is that your steek line tells you the color dominance. So your there's 5 stitches. Your odd stitch is always your dominant color, and your even stitch is your non-dominant color. So it's very easy to like know where you are in the pattern for like what color you should be holding on what side. I do this with a Norwegian thimble, so I have like the ring on my finger with the 2 little loops. My dominant color goes under, closer to my hand, and my non-dominant above, and that keeps your dominant loops under is what pops it like kind of forward, right, in color in doing this. So I'm really excited for this to take form too. So like that's also, I'm like, maybe I'll just get through like the neck chart as quick as possible, and then I'm done the increases, and then I can just focus like being on the round without having to like do as much looking around. That might be like not like a good place to stop or anything, but like that's a good goal to get to. Okay. Also, I just want to see all the colors together. I'm so excited. It's going to be so fun. And yeah, so I'm like really stoked so far. I've got all the colors in here, but also this entire thing is only 2 colors per row. There's never 3. So that's going to make it go like pretty fast. And when you do the changes, can I show you? You can kind of see it here. When you do the change of your colors, she's like, well, if you're using non-superwash yarn, which you should be for a steek thing, which you can, I guess you can use non-superwash and just sew it down, but like it's less secure. You can spit splice, and she recommends that you do this because there's quite a lot of color changes. So instead of having to weave ends in, then you just spit splice, like, you know, you have to figure out approximately how much room before, but it can be over your steek line too. So like you always have 2 stitches at least, plus 2 travels or 3 travels along the back to give yourself space for the steek to change. And so you can kind of see here, like this is the side. Like I have this, where is this focusing? Gosh, it's going to be hard to tell, but the black stitch in my first row of black under this white stitch here, you can tell there's like a little bit of blue in there still. And that's where I spit spliced it. But you're never going to be able to, and this is on my front shoulder, so you want it to be pretty close to where you do that. So I'm going to get a little bit better about like estimating when I have to do the spit splice. But like that is, I've done it twice now, and I was like, oh my gosh, I am already have a billion ends in the beginning, which by the way, she says a lot of these ends, especially the ones around the neckline, like you can just pick up and like, you know, weave into your neckline. And there's not that many on the other side. There's one on this, the start side, I guess, not where you then join in the round, has like maybe 3 or 4 different ends. And that one, she said, you can also just include them into your steek. So if you like sew it down or whatever, so like you don't have to weave them in, and that's not that many. Like I can weave these ends. I'm not worried about it. I will weave them in, but if I don't have to weave any of the color ends in, that's even sweeter. That's going to be so nice. So this was a long time talking about this one, sorry, but this was a pretty exciting cast on. It was a pretty complicated beginning. I don't mean to daunt anybody, do it, but do it with a clear head and allow all your brain cells. Make sure that when you're doing it, you just go slow. And sticky yarn is better for this. That is all I have to say. So I'm really excited. I'm excited to get into the color chart. I'm excited to get it started. Hoping that, yeah, can get through the neck increases. It's not that much chart. I probably only have like 15 rows left or something like that. If I could get that done this week, maybe, that would feel like nice to just get into the next section. Yeah, let's do acquisitions first this week, and then books, just because that's what's next to me now. I'll show you a couple things here. So we did go to La Mercerie over the weekend. So me, Sylvan, and Katie went over on the ferry, and we decided instead of going really early like we have in previous years, the collection that came was the butterfly collection, butterfly effects from the solstice collection. I really love that collection, but she wasn't bringing bases that I necessarily really wanted. She was just bringing like the basic bases from La Mercerie, which for them to stock also after, because I think Jess probably buys all the yarn and then she keeps it there, and then she keeps it, like she already has some in stock for Allie anyway, but she'll like add these colors to it. That's great, that's fun. But it just they weren't the bases I wanted, so I didn't buy anything. I didn't buy any Explore Knits. So this is 2 weekends in a row I saw Abbye and didn't buy Explore Knits, and I'm like, what's happening? But as we know, I have 2 big orders that are coming, and so I am not ready to buy a bunch of hand-dyed yarn that is going to just like add to this when I already have things I'm like planning to make from some of those things that are coming. Now, I did buy one thing from Abbye recently, which was from the Wicked 2.0 collection, the Act 2. I bought something from Act 1. Now, if you are watching Ariel's podcast and you know that she also cast on a Birch recently, and I've talked about this, she's a dark colored Birch, which is Commotions. And that's not the color I want, but there are other really dark variegated bases from Act 2 that now I wish I had bought one in fingering weight, and so I could make a second Birch, but like I'm not there yet. So hopefully in 3 years or whatever, when Abbye brings all of Wicked back, I will be in the space to acquire this. But what I did acquire is enough yarn to make the cold front vest in the color I just showed you. Your life could end up changing. And I was debating between this and the red that was from Act 2, and that red was so good and would be amazing and would maybe be more of like a stable wardrobe, but I'm not a huge vest wearer, and I figured I'd rather have it be a little statementy. So the cold front vest, I'll just pop a picture up here if you haven't seen this, is a relatively new picture or new pattern. She had a kit for it, but the kit was only one color, which is how she's usually doing these kits, which is great. But I wanted the same amount of yarn, but in this color for myself. And so I got this. So it's not a lot of skeins for the vest because I don't have to do sleeves or whatever, but this is in boucle, DK, and then in Surrey. And so I will hold them together and I will make something glorious and soft and fuzzy and amazing. And it may be the most annoying knit ever to do both Surrey and boucle, or the Surrey will help. No one knows. I don't know yet. Someone knows, probably, because other people have made this vest and I do not know. So if you know, tell me. If I'm just, buckle up and it be slow and annoying, that's also fine. I don't know if I'm going to do a full zip or the quarter zip. I'm leaning towards the quarter zip because like that's like probably nicer on my body and like my shape and stuff is like, I don't want to have and I don't want to sew in a whole zipper. But I will do something, and I'm kind of thinking I might do like a chunkier zipper than just like a small, and like have like the ring one and do like maybe a color, so it'll be like a bright thing, or I'll do black, or I'll do white, but I might not do like silver. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I'm gonna shop around. I have no idea because I don't have the pattern yet. I need to like make decisions. I will not cast this on right now, but I would like to maybe do this one this year because this seems like a fun thing. I'm going to do the Lanark first for my nephew and see how I like sewing in the zipper, and then we'll kind of make a decision. But I'm really excited to have this one. That is for me, but I did order that a while ago. The next thing I bought is not for me. And this I purchased at La Mercerie. And if you are aware or care, Jess did send an email to her newsletter subscribers, and I think she put it on Instagram, that just like due to tariffs and other things, they are raising the prices for Knitting for Olive and Durham Natura, which is a big amount of yarn that they have in their store. They have lots of hand dyed, but that's like their most of their commercial yarns are those two. And so they're not raising them exorbitantly, but like a dollar a skein or something. Which makes sense with how much the tariffs are. So if you want some, I think she's raising prices on Monday. So get some now and ship it to yourself. But they color like, they carry like, I think out of anyone, even, everywhere we went in Portland, well, people will have like some colors of them. But Jess carries like almost all the colors for a lot of different bases and a bunch of stuff. I'm not going to panic buy anything else, but this one I was going to buy anyway because this is one of my make nines for this year from my best friend Sarah. And this is one I will cast on pretty soon. So I was going to cast on after my sample a t-shirt for myself, but I actually may cast this on for her, and that was probably what I'll do. And I'm glad to do it for her because I make her something every year, and she is so knit worthy, and she's also just, my bestie. So doing what I'm doing. She does live in Pennsylvania, and it is a bit warmer there. So I decided that I wanted to, I am making her the Poisoned Apple Top by Lily Kate France. She is a Disney adult, okay? I'm just going to put that out there. If you know what that means, fine. I'm not going to explain it, but she basically loves Disney. Okay. And she goes to the park. This is not something she's going to wear in Florida because it's going to be too hot. But I think, because the Poison Apple top gives me like very deep Snow White vibes, but Sarah's not going to wear like that dark blue color that Lily Kate does. If you remember anything I've made for her, I actually made her something that was teal, which is not her color. That's my color, but it's light enough to that she was into it last year. I made her a Whitmore sweater out of like a really tan color. She's a neutral. She's a blonde. We are very opposites. And anyway, this color is her color. She wanted a bubblegum pink. She would not wear as bright as the yarn I just showed you, right? Like that's too pink, not a hot pink. And also she is blonde, so I didn't want it to be too pale. So I showed her these colors, or at least this one for sure. And then I had a different potential fuzzy to do this. So this has like a fuzzy panel, and you can do it all with the DK yarn instead. But this is fingering weight, and I'm just holding it double. And this one does not have an exact companion accompaniment color, but the closest one I could find was this flamingo, which is like a slightly more orange, but I think when you hold it single, and this light is not doing as much in sunlight. Katie and I also were like, okay, store light, sunlight, we put this in sunlight, and these are very, very close matches. I didn't want it to be like also too pale, because again, I don't really want, like, it already has a sheer effect. I didn't want it to be a naked effect, right? So this is flamingo in the soft silk mohair, and this is the cotton merino in strawberry ice cream. And this is just like such a lovely color, super, super cute. So I'm going to hold it double. And so this is 70% cotton and 30% merino, which I just feel like is gonna be a really nice, I'm already putting like a tiny bit of mohair on the top here, and I think this will be still and accessible to her in the spring and summer. I'm hoping to get this to her by Mother's Day. So I like to send her things in the spring if I can. So yes, this is where we are. So I'm excited about that. That's going to be fabulous. And I'm excited to get it cast on. So now that I bought this, yeah. Now, the other things I was alluding to that I purchased, which I will show you next week, but like I bought all the yarn for my nieces and nephews, other than one of my nieces, which I still have to talk to her mom, and we didn't like finalize plans, and it was a little hard because we were doing this over text. And so I need to just like get with her and figure out what we're going to do. And now that I have the yarn for the others, at least I have that to focus on. I'm not going to finish. I can't make them all at once. So I have the yarn coming for the nieces first, and then I'll get my nephews. And I'm going to probably cast on the Traveler first. And then, yeah, and then we'll go through the other projects and stuff. So when that yarn comes, but it's all pink. It's varying shades. But I've just got 3 gift knits that are going to be pink. And then obviously my nephew is not going to be pink. He picked blue, but you know, we will get them started. Okay, let's talk about books and then wrap up. So this week I read 4 books, and the first one was finishing the series that's out right now. There's a 7th book that's I think going to come out next year, of the Game Changer series by Reid. So the last book that's out is book 6, called The Long Game, and we go back to Ilya and Shane. And let me tell you, I was excited. I was just like stoked. You did hear about them just like a little bit. And the last book that we read, the role model is on Ilya's new team. Okay. And you're on the team and you fall in love with all of them, and they're great. But there is something fishy going on with Ilya. You can tell. And so this book actually overlaps timeline wise with most of, I think it even goes back to even before that book started. So always the Shane and Ilya books just like span the timelines for other books. So it was so good. It was great. I gave it a 4.7 overall. Let me just talk you through a couple of things, and then we'll, the ratings first. So plot, 4.5, enjoyment, 5. I was so excited to be back to them. The plot, I felt like it was, interesting. So they're together now. And so you are just in they're still keeping a secret. And you get why. They really, the secret feels more tenuous than other people's secrets because it involves another player, you know, for both of them. And you get some more like league happenings in the last book too, with like some shady peoples and some other things. And so this, you know, brought that all together. And then it's also like yeah, they're together, but like this happens sometimes. Like you read a book and then you're like, oh, okay, they, whatever. But you knew that even after their book, their road was not over. I mean, for all of them too, but like them in particular. And so like they had this plan, but you're like, can they stick it out to stay together, but also can they stick it out for the plan? And it was good. It was, again, all these stories are a little bit different, and even though we already were with these guys, new things happen to them, and like they are different. Okay, so I will just do, I was a 5 for enjoyment, I was a 4.5 for artistry, and part of this that I thought was hilarious, and this also is a 5 for characters, and these two tie into for me, is that she did a thing where you would sometimes hear about a thing from one of their perspective, and this is a dual perspective book, and then you would kind of go back, or like the thought would be from the other person's perspective, and they're not thinking the same thing. They're not on the same page for all of this. And it was interesting to see that, like, even though they're in a relationship and you think they're on the same page for the relationship, they mostly are, but there's like, they're both having feelings about this staying a secret, and they are not the same. And they kind of even acknowledge this about each other, but they're sometimes thinking like, oh, they must be thinking this. And then you get to the other thing and they're not thinking that. And I thought that was like very clever, because it doesn't mean they don't know each other. It just means that they're both reacting really differently to this situation. And I think it didn't make me like think they shouldn't be together, right? Like it just made me think like that's kind of hilarious that like they're just dealing with this stress in a really different way. Okay. And it's like so true to like life, that sometimes you're thinking like this about your partner, must be thinking this. And it's like, you need to consult them, because like sometimes they're just on another book in general about something. Anyway, so Heart 4.5, I just thought it was great. So overall 4.7, and great read. Would recommend just going through the series if you liked any of the first ones. Okay, the next thing I read was another hockey romance. I read 3 hockey romances this week. I was on a kick of what I had like put in my TBR. I got so many books for my TBR, and I was in the middle of, while I was reading some of these hockey ones, another fantasy one we'll talk about, but I needed some light and fluffy and or, you know, just, you know, smutty moments. So that's what we'll get with this next one. So the next one is, I think it's also the last one that's out, though she did set herself up for one more book, and I don't know, this one came out in 2024, so there could be another one coming, or she could be done. That's also okay. The other one was tenuous as far as a suggestion for another book. She does have more books out there, and so I think we cover into some other sports, but this is by Sarah Jane, The Pucking Wrong Rookie, which we knew he was going to get a book. And so this follows Logan and Sloane. And this is a pretty different story. All of the girls have like very messed up pasts, and they even like say this to Sloane at some point in the book, that like because they had such bad things happen to them, even though the guys are crazy and they acknowledge this, they're like, maybe we need that kind of obsessive like devotion that's helping us heal. And so these are the red flag books, everyone. Red flags all around. If you're normal human, you should have red flags about these. But in book world, and also like with these horrible pasts, like I get it. I'm here for them to have this healing moment with these alpha boys who make horrible choices. This one overall rating for me was a 4. In every category, it was a 4. We don't have to hash through all of those, just 4 across the board. In that, I just found it enjoyable. There wasn't anything really stand out about it. It's a different story. Like, they all have similar things, but like Sloane has maybe a more sordid past than the rest of the girls, but Logan's like, do not care, going to make you mine, and that's all you really have to know about it. These, again, don't really have a third act breakup. There is like a something external that then gets dealt with by the boys, and they're now a collective boys dealing with it, and it was great. A lot of funny banter between the circle of trust boys, like all the boys, and also between the girls, and I think a little bit more than last book even, and I liked that. I thought that was very nice. So overall, had a good time. Okay, the next book I read was the fantasy book that I read this week, which was Spinning Silver. It's a pretty long read, about 18 hours. This is by Naomi Novik, and if you've ever heard me talk about some of my favorite book series ever, Deadly Education, I'm gonna like put this out there forever. It's the Scholomance series. Way up there in my favorite ever series. It's just masterful. Read it on audio if you can. The audiobook reader really brings the characters to life, and also is like, she's just perfect character. Voice, like exactly how I'd imagine her. I mean, also because that's the only way that I've read it, but amazing books. I've now read Uprooted. I read last year, and then this is the other Spinning Silver. She might have some other books, but these are like the other big fantasy. And like Spinning Silver and I think Uprooted were both written before Scholomance. I will say, I think that series is superior to these standalone. Now, they're different. So the standalone books have like huge amount that are happening because she's really like creating the whole world, creating a problem, creating resolutions. And she did sort of the same thing. Actually, let me see if Uprooted was first. She wrote Uprooted first by a couple of years, and then this one. And I do think there's some growth in her writing. I liked Uprooted. I did. A couple of people commented after I gave my like review of that book last year that they thought Spinning Silver was better. I was not sold in the first like 20%. I was not into it. I was going to finish it, but it was a little bit slower for me in the first 20%, but she did some really interesting things with this book. And so I'm not going to give too much away. Part of what I was talking about this with the Knit Girls last night, because I think I'm the only one that's read it, but most of us have read Scholomance. So most of us like her writing style. It was like, it's different, but I do think one of the things she does that's like so clever is she starts with a character, and you're mostly from her perspective to start. Then you introduce another character, and then at some point you introduce another character, and then another character as perspectives. And I was like, whoa. So obviously they're all tying into some greater issue, which I kind of figured out, about like. And at first I was also like, where is this going? How are they going to mash up in a way that's meaningful? And about 30% or 40% of the way through, you start being like, oh, we've got a bigger conflict than I thought it was going to be. And I mean, I kind of figured that from Uprooted, because she also did this where it's like, oh, the woods are alive and trying to kill us. But you're like, that's not even the problem. That's not the problem. Let's go to like why there are woods. And, like you went to a much greater issue. And so sort of the same thing happens here. Now, this follows all the characters. I'm not going to tell you, but we start with Miriam and Wanda. And those are probably the two main characters. I would call it. There's a third one that I think is also maybe not quite equally important, but they're thirds of the book important, then the other characters share the rest of the importance. But anyway, Miriam is, and this also I said is interesting because they put you in, potentially this is Russia adjacent, but a fantasy land. But they talk about real life things and issues for like the Jewish community. So the main character's family is Jewish, but Wanda's family is not. And they live in I would assume like a seemingly Christian village where the Jewish family, they are money lenders and also like have a reputation, and people they're kind of ostracized, maybe for the religion, also for being money lenders, etc. And this is like adjacently Russia because they talk about czars, but like they talk about the other lands and they are not like countries. And so I'm like, where are we in time and space? I don't know. There are horse-drawn carriages. Still there are czars. There is seemingly no technology, but there's magic, and the magic is like recognized by all. So I don't really talk about like, they talk a little bit about magic wielders, but there is like magic otherwise that they talk about. And one of them is that there is sort of in the land that they're in, winter is trying to take over, and there is like a winter king and or winter people, and they are magical. And we don't really discover that much about them until like later, but like I'm not going to tell you all the things, but it's very interesting. It was very fun to read, and I really enjoyed the dynamics once I got into it of like the different narrators and like how they're dealing with the different problems and how they feel about each other and also the world that they're in. And it was fun, and it was interesting, and it was crazy, and you were like, I was just like, what is going to happen? And also even the end, I was like very satisfied with it, but it wasn't what I expected. Okay, that's all. Oh, ratings real quick. I gave this a 4.8 overall. So plot 5. Super interesting story. Enjoyment 4.5. This is only because that took me a little while to get into it, really. Artistry 5 though. I think the way that she did the characters, the development of the story, and like that shift in perspective was so interesting. I didn't even, like, obviously every time a new character came, you're like, what? But also I didn't realize how much the shifting was happening until like a little bit later, and then you're like, wow, like, yeah, it was cool. Characters also 5. I felt like I understood a lot about them. They were all multifaceted. It was so interesting. And then heart 4.5. Maybe, I mean, I could almost bump this to a 5, but I do think this is not necessarily everybody's cup of tea, so I don't know that I would shout to the rooftops that this is not my favorite fantasy book I've even read this year either, but it was so good, and I did recommend to my knit group. I was like, I think collectively most of them would enjoy this, and it's not a romantasy. There's an element of romance that's happening, but it's really more the fantasy aspect of it, and like about familial ties and learning about oneself and like gaining some independence. Like that's much more the themes. Okay, then the next book I read was another, just like I was while I was working on the Irish Sweater, like I need a no thought book, and this one was it. And this is Rule Number 5 by J. Wilder. This is like a college hockey romance. I will say I was not super jazzed by it. It was okay. Overall, I gave it a 3.3. Plot was a 3.5. Enjoyment was a 3.5. Artistry a 3. Characters a 3.5. And heart a 3. Which means, like, I would tell you, if you like hockey romances, especially if you like college hockey romances, this is okay. I like the Elle Kennedy books much more than this. It is quite smutty, but like it's one of those, I mean, maybe this is a theme I don't love that much, that like I have rules against dating or whatever, and so like I'm just not going to. And it's like all this, like this happens a lot in specifically like goal-driven female college characters. This is like the thing that people have decided, that they have rules against dating so they don't like get too attached and they can stay on their like life goals. And while I respect that as an idea, I think that's like so narrow of a perspective. Like I just feel like when you're in college specifically, like it's a great time to like not necessarily meet your husband, but like to date and like learn stuff about yourself and what you like and don't like. And if she's like she doesn't really go out very much, so it's not like she's hooking up with everybody, but never a repeat. And I was like, I don't feel like that's like a healthy perspective. Whatever. Obviously there's a boy that breaks all the rules. They have quite a hard road towards resolution. The thing that really got me for this, that like didn't pull my enjoyment down but made me irritated, so maybe that did pull my enjoyment down, made me irritated, was the reason for their big conflict was I felt out of character for the main male character. And so I just felt like she did him dirty a little bit, and they had to have a reason for the explosion, I guess, kind of, but I felt like there could have been other ways that this happened. And then I also felt like the end part where they have the resolution, she just like, for no particular reason, says like 2 months later, or 2 months had passed or whatever. And it kept being these like 2 month time frames. So they had quite a lot of time apart, which is fine, but it just felt like the way that happened inside the book, like it didn't really make sense. Like they were not unnecessarily like long time frames, like, and nothing happens, you don't really hear about anything, so I was just sort of like whatever. Anywho, it was fine. I would say, like, if you are interested in another hockey romance, it was fine. Definitely not my favorite so far of series. Will I continue reading them? Maybe. They're gonna be on the back burner. I've got super long list of books from the library right now, and also I'm just like maybe I would travel back into that world, but I'm not feeling like I must. Okay. I also didn't love the narrators for this book, and I don't know who they are, but I probably read them in other books, but like the female in particular, like I didn't love the way that she read the book, and so yeah, it was fine. Okay, I don't have much else to share for this week. I've got lots of plans coming up, things to cast on, to get ready for, etc. Have all of these fingering weight projects on my needles. Hopefully we'll have some of them done. I definitely will. I mean, I have to have my sample done. So I will have my, hopefully, poison apple cast on, as long as like, I still feel jazzed about that next week. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm going to move forward with all of these things. I'm really hoping to make my Birch have more progress. So this is a big, it's on my mind. It'll be on my needles. It'll happen for me. Otherwise, I just have like, oh, and I'm going to cast on my next, just to keep the momentum for my next single skein project, because I want to give myself the space in the summer, if I don't feel like making scarves or hats, to like have a little bit of a break and just be knitting garments. Yeah, so we'll see how things go. But as always, I love to highlight when I know of really good color collections coming out. There's so many things that are out right now. Like, people keep coming up with like really amazing stuff. I've been on Instagram a lot less than typical because I'm just trying to keep myself off of doom scrolling for many reasons. But I have been seeing Coley's like spring collection, or I don't remember what she's calling this one, but it's a bunch of tonals again, and they're a lot of really bright, fun colors. And so if you are interested in some tonals that are hand dyed, she has really fun bases, and I think she's got 1 or 2 brand new ones that she's introducing during this. I believe fiber will be included in this launch or release, but I'll pop up just like one picture of what's on the grid right now. And the blue she released yesterday, I'm like not usually into baby blue, and I don't obviously have really any of that kind of color here, but I love that color. And so I'm like, is there a little something I want to buy from her? I have so much coming from Lord of the Rings from her, so I really should not. But yes, anyway, if you know of other really great launches coming out, let me know. I can always like talk about them. I know like when I first released the channel, I like said, let's highlight some dyers that have smaller followings. I'm always happy to do that. If you know of somebody that you really enjoy their yarn or whatever, let me know. As I have been knitting with and like buying, but also knitting with more hand dyed yarn, I will say like, there are some things that lead me towards, like, I don't know if I've really talked about this, why I like certain dyers. Consistency is a piece of that. Just like having color palettes that are, you know, I like and not just think are beautiful, but that I want to knit garments out of course, is part of that. But there are a couple of hand dyers who do variegated in a way that I feel attached to. One of them is Abbye, and the other actually is Lauren from Treehouse. She also does a lot of short color repeats, not every one of her variegateds, but a lot of them. So she's not dyeing in a style that just is, it's just different. And I don't know anything about dyeing yarn, so I don't know how close they are in the way that they dye yarn, etc. But it's really compatible to me, like for how I like short color repeats in variegated, and like a lot of them spread throughout, so you don't just, it's less likely that you got color pooling. I'm buying more tonals than I have been also, and so dyers that have really more semi-solids than tonals, because I think then also you don't deal with color pooling or as many color issues. And so Abbye does that, Lauren from Treehouse does that, Coley does that really well, Jess from Witchfire Fibers, and Rachel from ZZ Textiles. And those are probably like some of my top dyers that I like purchasing from and using their yarn. And I've obviously bought from many others over the last, like, you know, couple of years, but that's why they are so high. It's because like color compatibility, dye style, etc. So I mean, just something to note. But if you have other dyers that you feel like I would like, or other followers like, always, you can send them to me. Let me know. I'd love to talk about other people with smaller followings. I will say, like, Witchfire, she doesn't have a huge following. Same with like ZZ. And I think that they're like, more people should talk about them because they have fantastic colors, like good bases, like good superwash and non-superwash bases. I think Rachel has both superwash and non-superwash. I think she just doesn't have any nylon in her bases. But anyway, last thing here is I just want to say a thank you to everybody who was so kind on the comments last episode and just gave me the shout out of both. You guys are just such a supportive community. If you comment or don't comment. I feel the love either way, but I did have a lot of really kind comments that were supportive in the way of, we love watching every week, but do what's best for you. And that is obviously, I'm going to anyway, but it is a really nice assertion and things. And I was not just fishing for comments last episode. I really truly was curious if you guys would care if I went to less episodes. And of the commenters, at least, the overwhelming sentiment was, we still love weekly updates, even if they're a little bit shorter. Obviously, this week was not shorter. I've been talking a lot. But I did spend a lot of time talking about the iris. And I think that as we get further into some of these projects, I won't have as many new cast-ons. I won't have as much updates. But I do think, I will say for myself, and why I brought it up is I could get onto an every other week schedule. I don't ever want to go to it when I feel like I have updates, because I feel like I would space for a long time. But I don't mind a weekly update, especially if I can get through talking about the chunk. Like, am I going to remember? Plus, I do read a lot of books. Would I remember those? Who knows? So I'm fine with keeping it weekly. That does not threaten my schedule. And if I feel like I need to skip a week, I'm going to do that. But I really haven't skipped weeks very often, because I have things to talk about, and to keep myself on schedule is easier for myself. Accountability. This is not even for you guys, but just like, this is what I do on Thursdays. This is how I do it. I will say next week, my mom is having cataract surgery, and that's going to be on a Thursday. So we'll see. I might film on Wednesday night and then put it out on Thursday night still. And that might be like an easier, because we still know her schedule for getting down to the surgery center, but I wish her luck for that. So it's supposed to be a really fast and easy procedure, but she's getting both of her eyes done, which I feel like is so crazy. But yeah, it'll help her vision. Anywho, I thank you for being supportive. I thank you for coming along this journey with me, for sitting with me each week and listening to me chat and writing your wonderful comments, joining the Discord, all of the things. I will say we do have our next knit chat is on the books for this weekend. I should have maybe said that earlier in the episode in case people aren't listening now. But on Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific, we are going to do our next knit chat. Mike is gone this weekend, so this will be during Theo's nap. So I will have an exact amount of time I can be on, unless my mom is around and can get her up from nap time. But we, about an hour, we hang out. You can come and go as you please. You don't have to come right at 1. You don't even have to be on camera if you don't want to. You don't have to talk. You can just hang and listen to other people knit and chat. But just or craft and chat. You can bring whatever kind of craft project you want. Or none at all and just chat with us. But it is a nice time to just share projects, talk about other things. We talk about books a little bit. We talk about knitting or spinning or crocheting. All the topics come up. New pattern releases, new yarn. It's just a fun time to talk to each other. So this is going to be this Sunday. If you are watching over the weekend, don't forget to put that on your calendar if you want to join. They are typically pretty small groups, 12 or less. So it's not crazy. So if you are not sure if you want to come and that doesn't sound too overwhelming, please join. Yeah, bring a warm beverage or cold beverage, depending on where you are. I'm going to have a warm something. And I'm excited to chat with all of you. As always, let me know what you're working on below. And I hope that you all have a really fun, good night, weekend, whenever you're watching this day, what have you. For my Friday crew, thanks for joining early. Don't forget to move your body, stretch, take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you next week.